Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. It's a Friday. Let's look at some serious business still, nevertheless. October 3rd, we're all preparing for the first and Independence Day, but on the 3rd is the day that, or the date that the Nigerian Labour Congress and I believe the TUC have sort of earmarked for the commencement of an indefinite strike, as they put it, resulting from hardships emanating from the removal of fuel subsidy. Let's look at that because according to the lawyers, especially the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, he has written to the labor to those two labor organizations through the lawyer, through the Femi Falana SAN, that was released yesterday, to the effect that if they were to proceed on strike, they would be in breach of a subsisting injunction. So let's talk about that and let's look at how we can go about this. There was a time when the federal government, through the Minister of Justice, had instituted a contempt proceedings, but upon the intervention of the president, it was withdrawn. Now, our guest this morning is a constitutional lawyer and public affairs analyst, Kabir Akingbolu. Good morning to you, and thank you very much for coming.
It's a pleasure for having me on the program. Good morning.
Always our pleasure.
It's a pleasure.
So, your thoughts on this, because Labour has come back and is saying that come the 3rd of October, it will be going. Now, they even have, an SAN as their lawyer. So, I mean, people feel secure that we're SANs. They don't joke with all these procedures and contempt of court and all of that. So, as a lawyer, let me hear what you think first of all.
Well, when you think about this kind of thing, first of all, we have to look at the law. And secondly, we have to, weigh options. Like when I say options, what has happened? We have to look at the background because, strike is not an end in itself. It's a means to an end, and it does not just arise. It arises after certain conditionalities or have been met.
That's right.
If these conditions have not been met, if you are going on strike, it will be illegal. Forget about the court order. The court order is a secondary issue. One, under the Trade Dispute Act, you must not belong to essential, workforce like the medical doctor. But unfortunately, these days, people just go on strike without even knowing the legality or otherwise of it. They just want to go on strike. Just the name strike, we want to go on strike, we want to go on strike. And in most cases, I, for one, I am not one of the advocates of saying people should not go on strike. No, that would be inhibiting their rights to, constitutional rights. However, this right is not total. It has some restrictions. For instance, I know under the military regime, I think under a military regime, that's what we call Essential Services Decree, where a medical doctor under those laws cannot go on strike, policemen cannot go on strike, some other people, like in recent times during the lockdown, a court has held and determined that lawyers are essential service providers because there could be breakdown of law and order. Now, people will just go on strike, no procedure, nothing, and before you know it, the whole country will be turned into a chaotic.
When you say people, yes, the TUC and Labour Congress made up of our people, but they have leadership. And I don't think it's imaginable that the leadership of the NLC or the TUC would be unaware of the implications or the definitions. These are what people can't become leaders if they are not knowledgeable in all those areas. And so this is, again, the concern that being knowledgeable in those areas, I would just take for granted, and still not being able to tell their members that we are hampered by due process. There's a situation on the ground. We're not anarchists. We're not going. We want to go, but there is a way to go. That is the part of it. And then when you said the court's thing, the court injunction is secondary, that worried me a bit because I thought, secondary care.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why I say secondary is that, in fact, the first place, you can't one before two for anything mortal. Now, there is a law in place. The law has conditions, it has stipulations, it has guidelines to be followed to the letter.
Yes.
Before you can proceed on strike. That is the first thing.
Yes.
That one is already there statutorily.
Okay.
Now, what I call law, this thing, it's not that it's less effective. What I'm saying is that statutorily there is even restriction. Then, if a court order now follows, it makes it stronger in the sense that whether you like it or not, whether you want or you don't want, there is no ifs and buts. The law is once a court has given an order, even if you don't agree with it,
yes,
whatever your opinion is, it remains the order. It is binding on all authorities to which it is directed. Now, if this order has been granted, there is no reason that anybody will want to go on strike. You understand? Now, the Attorney General fantastically has done what he is supposed to do in the circumstances. I think, by trying to say, these are the implications, please look at it very well. He's not saying, I want to watch and leave it for the Minister of Labour, who may not be a lawyer, though, in charge of the labor symbol. The Attorney General is doing what he has taken it upon himself so that, lawlessness will not become the order of the day. Because when we proceed on all these strikes, experience has taught us that at the end of the day, you just succeed in creating hardship or more hardship for the people. Because at the end of the day, after 2-3 weeks, you will not know what has happened. They will still come back and say, okay, let us go back to work. What of the things that have been damaged around that time that you have gone on strike? And this idea of no work, no pay, some people will not support it, but I think I support it where the strike is unlawful.
Exactly. And that is what Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, is sort of leaning on, as you well said, that, look, the Minister of Labour is one thing, but there are laws of the land, and they must be upheld. And it's like one lawyer to another lawyer speaking to, Femi Falana, SAN, writing to him. Everybody is obligated right there to be within the law. And so, do you think that Femi Falana himself has too much? Does he have too much wiggle room?
Well, I can tell you very well, being in the human rights world myself with Mr. Falana. Mr. Falana is someone I know so well. And after Ganivo, you take him out of all the activities in Nigeria, whether you like it or from whatever standard he comes first. Now, he has been with the labor for decades.
Yes.
And he has so much influence on them. And I will agree, he's a human rights lawyer. He has a penchant for keeping to the rule of law. I would be surprised if we will not advise them to at least, put it on hold. Let other things follow so that we can have a breathing space and there will be more rooms to negotiation. There cannot be end to negotiation because the welfare that we talk about at every particular point in time is relative. So when you demand for one thing today and it is done tomorrow, you want another thing, it is normal. You understand? By human nature. But I think Mr. Falana will do the needful. I don't see him that he will support them going on strike, except, and of course, those conditionalities have been met by labor, or those other conditionalities, some other conditionalities have been breached by the federal government. Because it's a two-way thing.
Exactly. Even the National Economic Council has advised against going on strike, simply because we can't really, it stands to reason. It doesn't matter what side of the divide you're on politically.
Yes.
That's a very important, that's a silent part to this whole thing.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what side of the political divide you're on. There still is the law, and everybody we imagine must strive to be under its ambit.
Exactly. You see, the moment you throw away law, the moment you throw away rule of law, the moment you disobey what the Constitution or the Labor Act or whatever is saying, the Trade Dispute Act is saying, you say to hell with court order, then you are trying to create anarchy. So the labor union leaders, I'm sure, will not want to do this because whether you like it or not, we don't have another place to call our country.
Exactly.
Nigeria remains ours, and we must do everything to protect it. I am not saying that government is doing well or they are not doing well. However,
Let that be
we
a separate
must
question.
know that right things must be done at the right time. And two wrongs does not make a right there. If the federal government has done some wrongs, if they have not been able to meet the demands of welfare, they have not improved the welfare of workers or Nigerians or the citizenry and all that, it is not through anarchy, it's not through promotion of lawlessness, it's not through promotion of, disobeying court order. It will not go well for anybody, especially as lawyers. That is our industry. It's our baby. We must protect it. We must ensure that everybody abides by the reasoning of the court.
Indeed.
It does not allow discretion at all.
That's it. That is it. And when you look at it, look, even the president has come in. When the attorney general, said, look, guys, looking at it with blinkers on, the law is the law, and if you were to proceed, you would be in violation of, in fact, as lawyers often add these words, gross violation. Yeah. Violation is violation.
Yeah,
but
that could be gross.
In gross violation of a subsisting, court order. That's why I brought in the matter, even though nobody has been speaking about that, and I hope it is irrelevant. But that's why I said, look, it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum that you happen to be on. Let's not talk that for now. Let's say this is labor issues.
Yes.
Let's leave it strictly in the purview of labor issues. The president has leaned over backwards. He has prevailed upon the attorney general to withdraw, the contempt proceedings he was about to institute, just so as to provide a more, let us say, enabling environment. Because, look, what does labor want anyway? Labor is not carrying on for itself. Yeah. It is carrying on for the workers of Nigeria, yeah. And by extension, it is, in support of Nigeria. But so is the administration in charge. Labor is supporting Nigeria. The administration in charge definitely is for Nigeria. So what do you want in the light of what has been explained that, look, there's very little wiggle room here. Patience is everything. Yeah. We've got to be patient. This is not going to be a situation that's going to be there forever, but we must be patient so we can come out of it. Now, if you don't listen, which I'm not saying labor is not doing, but if that doesn't count for very much and you still say, come the 3rd, we're going to move in this way, that's worrying.
I think in the past, I don't see, except on one occasion, that Adam Oshiomhole, as the labor leader, was able to move the military to do one of little. It's just a marginal achievement. There is nothing. All over the world, only few things can be achieved through force. You can, by negotiation, by compromise, by understanding, by cooperation. A lot of things can be done. However, it needs to be pointed out here that the labor union, they have a right to go on strike. They have the duty to do it. They have the obligation to also move their members to do all this. Because you see, if we talk about federal government doing this or the labor not doing this and all that, we should also talk about federal government. Because you see, you can't be pinching me and say I should not cry. You understand? People are suffering. The suffering is much. The price of commodities are going up every day. You understand?
In fact, NLC is saying that we have no agreement with the federal government not to go on strike now.
Yes.
Sometimes it's like, don't gaslight us. That seems to be the point of view of labor.
That's what I'm saying, because you see, it's two ways now, but it has to be balanced in the sense that if people are suffering, if the members are suffering, because the workforce in Nigeria, majority of them belong to labor union, one way or the other. So if labor union is not doing this, it will look as if they are too, they are too complacent, and people will not like it at all. And don't forget also, people voted them to be there. But a situation whereby things are becoming unnecessarily expensive, and by the day, it's getting harder. You will see the removal of fuel subsidy, there is nothing as good as the removal. However, what has happened thereafter? What are the assurances that the federal government is giving Nigerians? Everybody is suffering. It is not easy.
Yes.
From, when something increased by more than 300%, it is not something to write, a song and dance about. But I think, there must be enough negotiation, because there could only be strike when there is a trade dispute, or when the dispute cannot be resolved through amicable resolution and all that, or negotiation. That is where they can declare a trade dispute, and from there you can go on strike. Whichever way it will be, I think they have gone on 2 days warning strike before. By that time and now, federal government ought to have done 1 or 2 things to ensure that this thing didn't happen. But my problem is this: if we go on strike, cause hardship for people, we still come back to the same drawing table and come and agree on some other things. So why don't we ensure that that channel to ensure that things are done properly, so that people will not suffer more?
Yeah, exactly. Good morning, Mr. George. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning, Uncle Yori, and good morning to your guest.
Yes, thank you.
Uncle Yori, kindly give me 90 seconds to say something on this issue.
Sure.
What Labour is doing is simply to ground the government. It's not about going on any strike. What has the government not done that, to address the situation on ground? The government is about establishing 42 CNG industries. Does it take 2 weeks to do that? Most of those components they are using to set up the companies are not in Nigeria. Will it not take some time to do that? Government has given 5 billion naira allocation to every state governor. Labour has not approached any state governor to ask, how are you spending this? Involve us in the way you want to distribute it. All they want to do is just to bring down the government because the person who is the president, they don't like him. We hear that Labour Party, as a political party, has openly declared support for this strike. Where does that happen? The Attorney General should simply, if I were him, charge them for contempt. That's what the law says. Uncle Yori, coming, on this subject of workers, look at what happened yesterday or the day before. The workers in the Ministry of Works wanted to lynch the money simply because he wants them to do things differently. Where are we going in this country? They were telling him, I saw a video, did you see it? They were telling him, this is federal, this is not state. That is to say, nothing at the federal level must work.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that the attitude? Is that where we are? Is that the country we want to? And these same people are the ones complaining that things are not working. If I were the minister, they are lucky that somebody like me cannot even be a minister. I will sack all of them. Can they do that to wicked?
Okay, thank you for calling in, Mr. George. One can understand perhaps your exasperation. We also have, on our program this morning, Ken Okolubo. Mr. Okolubo is a public affairs analyst. He's in Abuja. No, that's not our Abuja studio. No fine reach like that. That must be, where is that, Ken? Is that your study or something? Good morning to you.
Good morning, Yuri. Thank you for having me.
Indeed.
Today.
Yeah. So thank you for coming on the program. Let's hear it from you in terms of this impending strike, which the Attorney General has said would not be in sync with the existing court order in place.
Well, the fact is clear. The labor unions and their right to go on a strike. But if you look at it,
when you say their rights, in spite of the court order, the subsisting court order?
Just allow me land. If you look at it on the larger picture of what the National Industrial Court, the order that was given on the 5th of June by Justice Anuwe, it was very clear that there was a subsisting injunction restraining them from going on strike, especially as regards the issue of subsidy removal, which is still the issue that is at stake. When I say it's on their right, labor unions can go on strike, TVC can go on strike. But what the Attorney General has done, which is true, is that there is a subsisting court order, which was issued by the National Industrial Court. And National Industrial Court, under Section 7B of the 2006 Act, that clearly empowers them to deal with labor disputes between government and the labor unions. But how much of that will have an effect on the proposed strike on the 3rd of October remains to be seen in the negotiations that we envisage that should be done between the federal government and the labor unions. What the Attorney General has done is to remind the labor unions that you have not vacated this order. Femi Falana is a constitutional lawyer and is seen as a freedom fighter who has always advocated that laws of the land should be obeyed. I thought Labour should have vacated that injunction before now, because the 5th of June till now is about almost 4 months since the order was given by Justice Anue. So if that order is still subsisting, I therefore agree with the Attorney General that the labor unions cannot go on strike unilaterally without, first of all, vacating that order. But be as it is, that's not to say Nigerians are not feeling the pains of the exchange rates going as much as 1,000 naira.
Of course.
The fuel hovering with over 600 naira. But we have been told, and the government, to be very fair, just like the last caller has said, has shown that they are making an effort to ameliorate these pains that Nigerians are feeling right now. And I think what the labor union needs to do is more of patience so that they can continue these negotiations with the federal government. What they're asking for, the federal government has not said we cannot do it. From what I can decipher from the negotiations that have gone so far, we don't want to pay taxes. We want an increment in our salaries. Some of the state governments have gone ahead to give them only 3 days of going to work out of the 5 days of going to work, just to make sure that some have even increased by 10,000 naira without even waiting for the federal government. And don't forget that the federal government has also released 2 billion. So what I also think the labor unions should do is to interact with the various state governments in the 36 states and in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, so that there will be a nexus within how this 2 billion is being effectively used by these states, so that we can also tell that this 2 billion is going around the local governments and the 774 local governments of Nigeria. That way the impact is also going to be felt by the people, and there will be no such hue and cry and pain as the people are feeling right now.
Indeed. Thank you, Ken, for that initial, shall I say, entry into it. And when Ken was saying in there that he would have expected Labour to have vacated that court order, Labour can't do that. It's only the courts that can vacate an order, right?
No, you make application.
That's yeah.
Yes, that's what it means. You have used the right language.
That they should have proceeded. Falana, that is their lawyer, or whoever else that is their lawyer, would have sought a vacation of that order.
All you need to do, the ordinarily an interim order should last for a very short time under the law, by procedural law. Now, all you need to do, file an application, get a date for it, and say, okay, this order is impeding our plans or our activities. You give reasons. If the reasons are cogent and compelling enough, the court may be willing to lean in their favor and say, oh, we vacate this order.
Exactly.
Because at times, when somebody, even in ordinary litigation, not to talk about very sensitive issues like this, when a party has gotten an order, he will go and sleep.
Exactly.
He will go to bed. Instead of making, frantic efforts to ensure that the problem, does not last beyond, reasonable time.
Yes.
But so far he has a court order, he wants to elongate the problem.
But that hasn't been done.
You understand?
That option hasn't been explored yet.
We might not be able to, they might have taken the option, but I think until the option has been explored,
yes,
and, you have been able to vacate the order, the order subsists, and nobody
unless there's something we don't know.
Anybody who does that will be acting illegally.
Unless there's something we don't know. But
yes,
as Ken said, he would have expected them to have been able to
here. Because sometimes you could file the application and it may not be given dates.
Yes.
Sometimes it can happen.
Kolawole has called in from Ifako Ijayi. Good morning to you, Mr. Kolawole.
Good morning, Uncle Yeri.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling.
Thank you. Uncle Yeri, sometimes ago I called on this show and I said, Labour Party, Labour Union, they are an extension of Labour Party.
Well,
if we can see this very well, you will see that the Labour Union, they are doing the bid of their pay master. Because what I can see here now is they are still campaigning after election. These same people are
But as you know, Labour itself will rebut that. I'm sure you are aware. Labour would rebut that assertion.
Yes, they can. But if we can see the things that they are doing, we will know. Now, fuel subsidy, they are telling the government to go back to start paying fuel subsidy.
Please continue. Please continue.
Yeah, they are telling the government to go back to go and pay subsidy.
Yeah.
Subsidy that the whole nation know that is holding Nigeria to ransom, pushing us into deep debt. They are not patient. They don't want to be patient for this government to do things. All they are doing is just attacking the federal government. There is nothing they are doing concerning the states. The states, they are not going to the states. They are not holding the governors accountable. The federal government has given the states money. They, like the other caller said, they have not even gone there to ask and to know what the states are doing. But all they are doing is federal. The state they are closer to the people than the federal.
Indeed.
Like the other man said the other time, check what happened in the Ministry of Works.
Yeah.
These Labour parties, these Labour people, they are the one, they are standing telling the
Well, that wasn't Labour Party. That was NLC.
This is federal.
I understand what... That was NLC. That wasn't Labour Party. That was...
We know.
Okay.
I'm talking of NLC, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm talking of NLC.
Okay.
So, are they not part of the NLC? Are those people not part of the NLC?
All right.
They are part of NLC. Yes, I understand. I don't know part of NLC. But these are the people telling the minister, this is not state. This is not state. This is federal. So what they are trying to say is that the federal will not work.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
The government to go back to what? To payment of subsidy.
Okay.
These are what they are doing. These are just the things that they are trying to do to force the government to go back to the payment of subsidy, which the NLC are benefiting from.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Akolawole, for calling in. Indeed, additionally, I was just reading that NUPENG has directed its tanker drivers, petrol station attendants, and others to comply with an October 3 strike.